All right, today we're jumping into a pretty wild idea from our source material, a protein engine that supposedly runs on, well, nothing, $0. Now that sounds way too good to be true, so let's dig in and see how this is even possible.
So this is the big question at the heart of it all. Can one bucket really give you unlimited protein for free? It sounds a little nuts, right? But according to this source, there are people out there who are already doing it, using what they call a biological glitch. And there it is. That's the central promise. Turn a piece of plastic trash into an infinite protein engine. It's a bold claim for sure. So let's spend the next few minutes unpacking the blueprint for how this thing is actually supposed to work.
Okay, so let's start breaking down this so-called infinite protein engine. You'll see it's not really just one trick. It's actually a few different systems that are all designed to work together. Let's see how all the pieces fit. Now, the interesting thing here is that this isn't presented as some futuristic new tech. The source calls it forgotten engineering and ancient science. And they make a pretty compelling claim that these super efficient methods have been kind of, hidden from the public. The first major part of this engine is something the source calls the maggot farm system. And look, if you happen to have a flock of chickens in your backyard, this is apparently the ultimate secret weapon for feeding them. So, what's the secret ingredient? It's the black soldier fly. The whole idea is that instead of constantly buying feed, you're basically creating your own, what the source calls garden gold. It's a way to take all your kitchen scraps and turn them into a totally free, super high-protein food source for your animals.
And the setup is surprisingly simple. You just hang a bucket, you bait it with some kitchen scraps, and then you just let nature do its thing. The cool part is that the larvae actually self-harvest. They crawl out of the holes and drop right where you want them. It's a cycle that just keeps refilling itself.
And here's where you really see the result. This free food is said to produce eggs with those deep, rich orange yolks that you almost never see in the grocery store. The kind that signals a really nutrient-rich diet. And it's all powered by a system that runs on your trash. All right, next up is the green gold system. This part of the engine is all about creating a seemingly endless supply of omega-3s. The secret here is this tiny floating plant, either duckweed or azolla. The source calls it green protein, and its growth rate is just astounding. We're talking about doubling its mass every single 1 to 2 days under the right conditions.
And this system is a real 2-for-1 deal. It can be a permanent source of omega-3s for your animals, or you can use it as what they call a biohacker fertilizer. The source even claims the liquid tea you can make from this stuff can triple your garden's harvest.
So, what if you don't have a backyard? Well, this third system is designed for that exact problem. It's a method for growing protein that needs zero soil and absolutely no sunlight.
This one uses a vertical trash can to grow either mushrooms or mealworms. The fuel for it is just free waste, stuff like cardboard or sawdust. And since it's designed to work in total darkness, it's perfect for a garage, a closet, or even a basement.
Okay, get ready for this number. The source claims this method is 400% more efficient than regular composting. And you might ask, why is it so much better? Well, it's because you're not just making soil, you are directly converting that waste into edible protein. And you're doing it in a fraction of the time.
So, we've seen the 3 systems, but how do you actually build the main part, that protein bucket? Well, the source says it's just a 5-minute setup.
So here's how you do it. You drill some holes, you add your fuel, like old fruit peels or coffee grounds. Then you add what the source calls an accelerator, which is something like a microbe liquid that just helps kickstart the whole process. Place it over your collection spot and boom, the engine is running. What I find really fascinating is how the source frames this whole thing. It's not just a bucket of bugs. It's a modern victory garden that fits into a tiny 2-square-foot space. It's kind of a throwback to those self-sufficiency movements from the past. And that really brings us to the last, and maybe the most important part of this whole idea. This isn't just about one bucket. It's about a whole philosophy of independence. You see, this protein bucket isn't really meant to be a standalone hack. It's presented as just one gear in a much, much bigger machine, the grass-fed homestead system. This leads to a really cool concept called system stacking. The idea is you combine the protein bucket with other things, like maybe a 7-tree food forest or a Roman water system, and you start to build a genuinely self-sustaining food system that takes very little effort to maintain. And the whole principle behind it is what the source calls the forbidden physics of gardening, which is this quote: using the Earth's natural cycles to do 90% of the work for you. It's all about letting nature do the heavy lifting. So when you put it all together, the end goal here is total food security, total independence. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. In our modern world, what does a truly sovereign homestead actually look like? And is something like this a real step in that direction?